Good to be here this evening with you. Everything is all right. We're on Wednesday already, halfway through the week. Look at that, guys. That's something. Um, yeah, before we get started here, let me make some adjustments here and make sure that the light is good. Yeah, everything looks good. Let me go over here and see what's going on with that chat. Everything is looking. Scott, is everything all right? By the way, man, I saw your earlier message about the fires. How did it work out? I'd love to hear from you, man. I was worried about you today. I'm glad to see you here, sir. Um, yeah, all right. I think everything is set. Believe it or not. Let's go a little bit more this way. Yeah, that looks good. All right, I had a little bit of a late start here, guys, because, well, quite frankly, it's hot as hell, and I didn't want to come in here until I had to. But it's cooled off in here. I wanted to let it cool off a little bit before I set up. I didn't want to have all these lights and everything on for too long, so that's why the little bit of an odd setup today. Good to be here, guys. As I always start out by saying, I am always really appreciative of you being here. Time is a valuable thing, and for you to spend a little bit of yours here with me this evening is really, really greatly appreciated. I want to thank you guys so much, as always. Who we got here in the chat? Mr. Watson in the house. Mr. Allmark in the house. Thank you. I'll take the applause. Thank you, sir. Good to have you guys here. Good to be here, guys. Well, I have been on and off taking breaks through the weeks this week and so far. Uh, Actually, going around to different parts of Amsterdam. I've lived here for 5 years now, places that I haven't even been to yet. And just kind of sitting back. Sometimes you need to step back from everything so you get a clear picture. Sometimes too many things rolling on can roll you over. So that's kind of what I'm doing this week, a little bit, still working a bit. But I've been enjoying that, guys. But the thing is, hey, Dubai, welcome. The thing is that it was hot here today. it was a real true scorcher here today. But fortunately, I have aircon in some of the rooms, not all the rooms in my place here. So I'm a little bit better than other. And I'm on the top floor, and I got a breeze that can go from the back to the front of the house. So I'm not suffering too much, but it was a hot one today. I have to say, even my lens seems a little hazy today. I'm looking here at the playback. Um, you guys, I was talking about that pedal that I ordered, and the sort of like a Pocket Master, but it had a volume control pedal, actually like a wall pedal slash volume control pedal on it. And I was pretty excited about getting it. As a matter of fact, I was looking forward to getting it um, sometime this week. And I got a email from the shipper saying that they thought they could stock it and rush send it, but they couldn't get the stock in, and would I like to wait? And I immediately canceled. Not because I was angry, not because I was upset about it, just because I thought to myself, well, if there ever was a sign to go left when you're going right, that was one. So I canceled that order, and just like everybody else out there, I replaced it with a Pocket Master. so so really nothing new there. I am interested to see how it goes when it gets here. Again, exactly the same kind of unit, exactly same specs, to be frank with you. Um, a reason I like this one, again, like I said, it had a metal case to it. The Pocket Master doesn't. But maybe it'll be all right. But I do want to get one of those in. So I just canceled that order and ordered a Pocket Master. Scott, no, I wasn't going to leave my house. It was getting close to having to move my guitars. Yeah, man. Yeah. That's the thing about big collections is that when we kind of talk about it hypothetically a lot here, but the recent fires in the Palisades kind of put it in my mind too. It's like, wow, you know, if you got to grab XYZ and go in XYZ amount of time, what are you going to grab? That could be a whole live stream discussion, actually, all into itself. You kind of touched upon it, but yeah, I was worried about you, man. I have to be honest with you. When I saw that, I was like, because we have all these wildfires that are going on here, especially in the southern Europe. So it put me in mind of that. So yeah, it's it's something, guys. It's something. So let's just think about that. Maybe all of us, it would be a good reminder that it's always a good idea to have an emergency kit ready. A grab and go bag is what I like to call it. I've had one since 2011 when I was in the great Japanese earthquake. And since that time till now, I've always kept one. I think it's time for me to pull mine out and maybe refresh it a little bit. But yeah, dig that. Um, yep. So Maddie, did I see Maddie here? Hey, Maddie. Hey, how you doing, sir? Welcome, Mr. Two Hats. Good to have you here, fellas. Good to have you guys here. So anyway, the long and short of it is that they couldn't fulfill the order in time, so I canceled that order and I bought, the Pocket Master, which by the way, I've been watching videos on it last day or so and read the manual already and went through it. And I think for my pedal board, it'll still work out just fine. It's going to go from my Fender level buffered inside my old Nobles preamp, which is basically a Fender Blackface and a pedal version, and my Klon Centaur. And then run all that into the Pocket Master, which I understand takes pedals very well, especially if you download NAM files. The NAM files seem to work really well with pedals, so kind of interested in that. We have 5 minutes of the evacuation warning going out. I had three people offered to take them. Vultures. Oh my gosh. I hope they were taking them in the spirit. They were going to help you take them and get them back to you. That's interesting. Interesting. Um, Speaking of gear, and kind of where I'm going tonight with this discussion, tonight's live stream is entitled Flying with Gear, Emily Wolfe, Broken Guitars, and Why Airlines Must Do Better. You know, I have my own story, horror story that I'm gonna bring in here. But the other day, I was reading an article about Emily Wolfe's guitar. Now, Emily Wolfe, for those of you who don't know, she has a signature guitar. I believe she's always played an Epiphone guitar. They made a signature guitar for her of that, and that's been pretty popular in terms of sales. I've seen a few of them in person, and she had her guitar, her signature guitar, and packed it in the proper hard case. Took all the proper precautions, detuning it, not having strings taut or anything like that, and this, that, and the other. She did everything that she had to do in order to facilitate the safe travel of that guitar. And when she received it at the other end of her flight, it had a busted neck. Now, this is a tool of her trade. And I'd be heartbroken. Um, I'd be really heartbroken, to be frank, to have myself in a situation where something that's as intimate to me as a guitar that I've been gigging and playing for a long time to end up with a broken neck because of the airlines. So that's pretty rough. So I decided, she said, Okay, let me get in touch with the airline and say, hey, look, you guys busted up my guitar. You're going to have to take some kind of financial responsibility for this. And then, of course, the airlines, which I believe was Southwest Airlines, got back to her and said, basically, pound sand. No, we're not going to take any responsibility for it at all. And, you know, so she's really making this story known out there because, in her own words, it's about protecting the tools of our craft. And I agree with that. You know, if we do everything that the airline says that needs to be done in order to ensure the safety of our stuff from point A to point B, they should fulfill on that, or at least be prepared to make restitution if, you know, something, which it shouldn't happen, but if something does happen. Excuse me, guys. I had no idea my cat Eddie was in the room. Sorry, guys. Had to let him out. Um, and the other one, he's here too. You guys can say hello to Ellie. She's kind of my studio cat. She's a good one. She's taken Mr. TJ's place, actually. Um, Pete Thorne had that happen. Gilby Clark had the same experience. It's really, really more of a widespread issue than I think most people touch upon. So that's why I thought I would talk about it tonight, because I've had experience like that myself. Red, hey, how you doing, Red? Good to have you here, sir. Good to see you. Good to see you in good health. Mike, have you seen United Breaks Guitars? Yeah, I haven't seen this one. That looks like that'll be pretty funny. I'll take a look at that after the show. Thank you, man. Now I got cat hair all over my face. What do I think about plastic humbucker covers? Um, I I think that in the design, I do believe that with the P90s, those are plastic covers. I don't think that a plastic cover would harm or facilitate any kind of reduction in vibration and in combination with those magnets picking that signal up. P90s are plastic covers, and those are basically, you know, a P90 pro, I guess, you know, prototype or early P90, you know, kind of thing. Just my thoughts. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Literally have cat hair all over my face now, but I'm glad that she's here. Um, you know, I bought a quad of 72 greenbacks from the gynecologist, Brad, and I sold two of them and brought the two best ones with me back from LAX to Singapore when I was living there. And by the time I got to Singapore, somebody had put their hand through the cone, completely broke the cone, completely busted the cone on a perfectly good cone on that, no problems. And of course, you know, that just broke my heart, you know, and no complaints, no restitution, nothing that I could really do about that. And it just sucked. And, you know, I hate to say it, but I won't travel with anything serious to or from the United States anymore as a result of that. Not a guitar, not an amp, nothing. Because, you know, it's just, you know, it's like the WWE, man, you know, when it comes down there and the moving packages around, moving luggage around. They really just toss it around. They do not give a crap, which is the opposite experience of flying in Asia, even going between Japan, Singapore, or Thailand, or other places like that. I've never had a problem. Never had a problem. So I hate to be a little bit of US bashing, but from my personal international traveling experience with gear, The worst offender is the United States. That's just a simple fact of the matter. And all of these stories that I'm telling you tonight are U.S. based. Yeah, the Southwest Airlines. She had a hard shell case. She had the fragile stickers. She had the fees paid, and still a broken headstock. Still a broken headstock. And this was Southwest Airlines. Now, Pete Thorne had a broken Les Paul story. Gilby Clark's Les Paul also was damaged on the same trip with Pete Thorne and Gilby Clark were traveling, and both their guitars got damaged on the same trip, which tells you that in the handling process, it was heave ho. The baggage guys was just tossing stuff. No regard. No regard. Southwest refused responsibility, citing fragile item policy. You can label it to hell. Handle with care, fragile. You put stickers all the way to it, all the way around it. And it won't matter. It won't matter. It's not like they're reading the stickers, actually. It's not like they're reading down there anyway, to be honest with you. It's not a job for, Mensa guys, to be frank. And have you guys ever had that happen? Have you ever had something destroyed traveling? I'd be very curious to hear about it here in the chat. Randolph, I love your voice. Thank you very much. Red says, hopefully going to be posting more content soon with a new setup. Sweet. So far, I've only had my phone, but my buddy, the UB, is working on a laptop interface for me. That's great, Red. Red, please keep us posted. And when you get that up, we will be there for sure. Yeah, guys, sweating on. Sweating on. I'm drinking iced tea, but the ice has melted. It's semi-chilled tea now. Mark Agnasi, like a broken clock being right twice a day, chimed in and said that the airlines need to do better, which he's right. That's a message that I can actually co-sign on, that they do need to do better. And I did the same thing. I packed it in a proper speaker case. Everything was properly paid with fragile on it. It actually was shipped to me that way. I believe he lives in St. Louis to LA. So I just kept that going. And somehow or another it made that trip no problem. But the minute it went international, all hell broke loose. And, it's not just the fact that it's guitars. This is irreplaceable gear. There's never going to be another cone for 72 out of, for the greenbacks ever made again. That factory burned down in 73. So it's just not going to happen again. And in Emily's case, it's the same thing with her guitar. Again, like I said, I'd be heartbroken. Because you got that guitar set up sweet, just where you like it. It's played in. You know it. It's intimate with you, and then somebody just throws a monkey wrench in that program, and you got to pick up your B guitar, which is probably okay, but still, it's not the A guitar. So I can totally understand that. I can totally understand that. Also received my Tees prototype from Fret Night Guitars. 19K guardrail only. 19K? What are you doing, like, Spinal Tap 2? Well, I got 19K pickups and we're going to turn the amp up to 12. That's awesome. 8C in Brisbane. Yeah, oh boy, that sounds nice. I'm actually looking forward to that. You can see I'm just like dripping wet. I'm sweating in here. Never had a guitar break in transit, luckily. Yep, I did an interview for his channel a few weeks ago. Interesting. No, it's hot for sure, but staying for days. Yeah, that's pretty hot. some of the old Japanese ceramics were getting up there in the 15, 16K range. Some with the what was that? The screaming something, the screaming 82s or something like that, that were like that. And you would think, it actually it's an interesting tone. It's not hard. You would think it would be harsh or brittle, but it's not. And it really depends upon where you put them. So yeah, there's that. Interesting, Red. Interesting. Um, why this keeps happening? Honestly speaking, guys, airlines liability policies are full of loopholes, and the cost cutting that they do down, where the real work is being done, shows in stuff like this. Uh, there's cost cutting, and then there's proper handling of goods, and one is diametrically opposed to the other, and as a result of that, you get this. And again, like I said, you know you'd have a better luck hiring a football team, a high school football team, to do the handling down there. It'd be about the same result, I think. And you know I put this in the framework of a musician's being a kind of unique position, that we have to transport the tools of our trade. You know, think of Peter Frampton's, triple pickup Les Paul custom that went down in a plane crash, and it turned up like 40 years later. These are important tools of our trade, and they mean a lot. And when they're gone, they can have a lot of significance in a lot of different ways. So, we're not just transporting stuff, we're transporting the tools of our trade. Of course, there's others that have to transport things as well that would feel similar. I'm sure that outside of our little table here, again, YouTube is a high school cafeteria, and here at the YouTube guitarist table, I'm sure this story rings true here as it does on a few of the other tables, like maybe the golf club table. Maybe I could see how broken golf clubs at the other end could be actually a real possibility, you know. So, you know, unless you're a pro golfer, however, I wouldn't say that's necessarily tools of the trade. But you never know. So it's a big problem. And again, like I said, I don't want to really kind of trash talk the United States, but I got to be frank with you. It's in the United States is the biggest problem. I've traveled literally all over the world. I have been around the world, and I can't find my baby. But I've been around the world. I've traveled to many, many, many countries and lived in many countries. And it has really been my experience that the worst baggage handling is the United States. So much so that I got to the point where I wouldn't take my good luggage. I had my good luggage that I travel around Asia in so that I don't look like a bum. And then I got my going to LA luggage. I'm not kidding. That gets beat to hell. Every trip there's a new dent or a broken wheel once. Stuff like that. It's always like that, out of the States. And it's just my observation. And yeah, I kind of stand by that one because it's from real experience. I don't know what's going on there. I really don't get it. Is it spite? Is it anger? Is it, this guy's probably got a great guitar in here. See how great it is after I drop it, from the from the top of the aircraft hangar door to the bottom to the truck. Maybe not so great. Um, let's see. No, it's not. You can go get a coffee, and that one's still going. Hey, yeah, 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 yeah. Without a noise gate, I can grab a donut too. Take a bath. Long shower. Seymour Duncan screaming demons. Um, if it's Seymour Duncan scream, they're copying like I said the Japanese screaming 82s or whatever it is. No, it's definitely screaming 82s as I seem to recall that, but pretty hot, 15K. Michael Watson. I bet Frampton has that guitar shirt out the ass now that he has a bet. You betcha. It's gonna show up in a museum. It's gonna go along with Jimmy Page's number one. There'll be some Smithsonian exhibition, and that guitar will be there, and rightfully so. But it's just a miracle that that happened. But that's an extreme case of losing a musician losing their instrument during transport. Thank God he wasn't on the plane because, of course, we talk about the guitar, but unfortunately, let's pray for the souls of the people who were on that plane as well because they all perished. So it was a bad one. You won't get me on a plane, Red says, so my gear is safe. I hear you. I have shunned it again, like I said. I get so many things damaged in shipping at work, Scott says. Basically, every day we have to put a claim. Made a vid about it once. I'm going to check that one out too. That's interesting. Right on topic as usual, Scott. Appreciate that. Everybody take a look at that. And just see how it is. Imagine, when you're getting lots of instruments. That's why when I'm importing stuff from Japan, I don't worry anymore. First of all, my good friend and business partner in Japan, who never packed a guitar in his life now, is a pro at packing. Better than the Japanese uh, guitar shops, in my opinion. And so I don't really worry about breakers. You guys, I noticed that with my unboxings, I don't really worry about that happening. I don't ever say, "Oh, I hope these are on one piece." Really, because they are. That's not the issue. Really, because I hope that these are what the seller said they are. That's the big I hope. Actually, in my mind, doing that thing. But if it was coming from the States, it would be a completely different viewpoint. Just saying. You know, just saying. Again, for you guys who don't know, a couple of tips. Pre-flight, loosen your strings. My Uncle Carlton, his his guitar, the Ibanez, or yeah, Ibanez. Yeah, that guitar was his main gigging guitar for years, and he made a mistake of traveling with it without loosening his strings, and he found out real quick. And he'll tell you, he says, "Hey man, I found out real quick about getting a neck snap, getting a neck break." And so loosen the strings. That's a real deal. First thing. Remove delicate parts. It doesn't have to all be together. When I'm taking some older, like I brought over a 335 from Japan once. And I remember taking the bridge piece, all that stuff, I took it all off. Didn't even have to worry about the strings because it didn't have it on. I took all the stuff that can slide, slip off, or scratch or damage the guitar off of it. Document, document with photos how you packed it. You may not get any relief from the airline, but if you have some kind of insurance on your instruments, you may be able to make a claim on that. Choose the right flight case. Um, Flight cases are getting outrageously expensive. Quality flight cases are creeping up there to the $300-400 range. It is incredible, the price on some of these cases. And so, um, honestly speaking, really, I just, it's not going to be cheap. There's just no way around it. So you're going to have to spend a little bit of coin and get yourself a proper case if you're going to be doing that kind of. I can't think. When I was writing this, I was trying to think. No, there's no way around that one. You're just going to have to spend the money. Insurance, of course. Normal flight and travel insurance is not going to cover it. You might look into getting insurance on your instruments. If you have homeowners insurance and or apartment insurance, and you can list your instruments, that may cover you. They may cover that. They may cover that. If you say, "Yeah, I took it off over on vacation and it got broken," that may cover you too. And you know, really gate check strategies. Do I really have to check this under? Is it possible that I can bring this on? When I flew business class, I could bring a guitar on. And so I would bring it in, the stewardess took it, and they actually put it in the cloakroom, and so that worked out great. I brought back my a lot of equipment from the LA. Some of it I could put in the overhead rack. So honestly speaking, gate check at the gate. Really, just check what are my options here. Don't just assume you have to put it under. You may not want to do that. You may not want to do it. So, you know, you know, there are extremes. I kind of joke next time I'm gonna book a window seat for my speakers. I said, because I was kind of joking about a real life guy, our good friend Joe Bonamassa, who, as you guys know, I admire Joe Bonamassa. Joe just rents a seat. He buys a ticket for the seat next to him, first class seat, whatever, and he puts that guitar right next to him. He buys the whole seat and puts the guitar right next to him. I don't know how many airlines will allow that. They'll start to get pretty snooty about it. But if you buy a ticket, a seat, and that's your seat, and you want to, strap your Les Paul in it, and so it's sitting next to you the whole time, that's the way to go. That's the way to go. If you can pull that off, that is like the beauty of it. So there is that. Let's catch up here in the chat. You won't give me, yeah. Let me see, guys. My chat's a little bit behind here. It's good here on the screen. People play wind chimes with the guitars. Yeah, no kidding. Sure, all you need is Joe's money. Yeah, well, Joe tours 260 days a year. He's on constant tour because he has figured out that if he truly wants to retire, plus feed his addiction, but if he truly wants to retire in any kind or continue to live a certain kind of lifestyle, he's got to go out 260 days a year. And he's not getting any younger. I mean, no offense to Joe, but it's truth. But, that's something. Again, like I said, personal life, really, family life, there's a lot of sacrifices in doing that. It's lifestyle, he could retire. Yeah, 2 seats, please. One for me and one for my friend who is turned into guitar by a witch. But honestly, this is my wife, but we went to this voodoo temple, and there was a ceremony, and I was thinking about Les Pauls, and man, but Joe does that. Joe does that. I admire that. Like I said, I wish I could pull that off, but I don't have that kind of bread, so I had to figure out other ways of doing it. But it's a serious issue, guys, and I have to say that if you're flying around in the United States, beware, beware, emptor, beware, you know, because honestly, it seems like it's just going to get worse, but especially with the cost cutting that the airlines are doing. And there's just that. Man Two Hats, he's probably pissed he can't fly private. Yeah, I don't know. Joe's, is a funny guy, man. Just observing him from the distance, he seems to me the type of guy who really wants to pour all his, if there's a difference between flying private or buying another guitar, I think we all know what the answer to that's going to be in Joe's case. It's just the way he is. And he's gotten to the point where he wants to have two or three of everything. He wants to have duplicates of stuff now because he's it's just it's insane. It's insane, but that's his thing. Right? It's like Freaky Friday. You and the guitar have to see through each other's perspective before things return to normal. Yeah, I don't know if I want these mitts crawling up and down my neck. Meyer flies private and brings his dumbbells. Yeah, Meyer's a different. Like I said, his that's where his money goes. He's instead I'm sure he has a guitar collection, but nothing like Joe's. And that Joe would rather put his money in his collection. It's his retirement plan. And in his case, as I said, it may actually work because it's got the provenance of being owned by Joe Bonamassa. Joe Blow down the street, not so much, not so much. But I digress. Mayor is, he's his own man, like Liberace. um, so there's that. And honestly speaking, guys, it's just, it's not going to get better at all. Can't see it getting better. Don't expect it to. Nor do I think that anything that we can do more on our end. We can buy the best flight case. We can put fragile on it in neon. We can treat it with kid gloves up into the point where we have to hand it over to someone else. And then, so if you're flying in the States, I would really be careful. If you're outside of the States, you got okay, decent chance of it working out. But honestly speaking, the States is the worst offender by far. Don't know why that is. Meyer buys watches. Oh, didn't know that. But he has millions of guitars and pedals, just not in a museum. Yeah, like I said, I'm sure that he has quite an extensive collection, but I don't think he hasn't been collecting as long as Joe because he's not as old as Joe. So that's the first, kind of thought I had on that. And the second thing is, again, Joe probably has, a few watches, but again, some men, if you're in that position and you're a rock star, and you can look at certain amount of income per year and you got to start thinking where there's only so many houses or so many cars, where am I really going to put this into? And if you're intelligent, which very few of them are, if not in the creative sense, but in the money management sense, then you have to start thinking differently too. Joe hoards all the old stuff. Yeah, yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. My money would go to my business if I get one. Yeah, or a bus. Yeah, tour bus is good. I prefer the idea of actually a tour bus, to be honest with you, to tell you the truth, because that beats flying. And, again, you got your roadies. You get a good enough bus, you got a couple of guys, plus, yeah, I don't know. Again, like I said, it's never going to be something that I have to worry about in this lifetime. So to speculate and put myself in their shoes, I could certainly understand that your mode of transportation and your gear is probably going to be your manager's number one concern. With Emily and her situation, I really do think that she really did the best. I'm sure her manager, travel manager, thought was best. And again, what can you do? I think a house would be nice down on my humble level. Yeah. You know, there was an old, was it Reddit? Something like that that I was reading. I remember I was in a Japanese restaurant in Singapore eating lunch. And there was a guy on Reddit who was supposedly supposed to be, one of the, like Illuminati type guys, real up there, rich, Rothschild kind of guy. Anonymously asking questions like, well, if you had if you had $100 million, what would you do? And most people were like, I get a house, or I'd pay this off, or I would do this and I'd do that. And he laughed at them. He said, ha ha ha, you guys are so naive. That's why you'll always be in your position. What you would do is you would take that $100 million and buy influence in Washington, D.C. in order to get a factory that you want to build somewhere in order that you could, and he broke it down like that. And again, it's just a really how you would deal with that situation really depends upon your perspective, is the point of that. And I hate to admit it, when I read that, I remember when I was sitting there reading through those posts, and is this real? Is this bullshit? I didn't care. It was entertaining. It's like Denzel Washington in Training Day, 95% of it's bullshit, but it's entertaining. Um, And I kind of agreed with that thing. I said, he's absolutely correct. That's the first thing you would do. You could live in a shack. What difference does it make if you have that much political influence? That's real power. so, so, I had, I do have a little inner Emperor Palpatine in me. I have to agree. I'm starting to see maybe. Maybe a little bit Palpatine in me. I kind of, I felt for him a little bit as he was falling down, the Death Star core there. Marlowe's hierarchy comes first. Yeah, Marlowe's hierarchy. Yes, Marlowe's hierarchy. Correct. Correct. But then again, like I said, depending upon where you're at in that, or depending upon how you look at it, I've seen different illustrations of it. Really depends upon the way that you're going to view things. Again, everything's about perspective. I'd buy about 5 acres, place a few tiny homes with a tiny studio too, set up for solar and water catchment, and I get my family a few core things they've been wanting, and a bunch of charity. Well, again, like I said, we are we're good men with good nature and good character. So our thoughts, of course, would be to our families. And I'm not saying that Joe and John Mayer aren't. I'm sure they as well take care of their families. But, on certain levels, man, the thinking is so far from what you and I would think that it would give you chills to read some of their writings. I think that Reddit was actually a very it rang true to me because I said, you know what, this is really the correct answer, and this is the answer of somebody who either may not know but is adjacent to real power. To give and go through that and give off that diatribe, which was correct. Really perspective. Walk. It's walking in another man's shoes, kind of thing. A house and lots of food and firewood would do me just fine. Well, you and me both. You and me both. That's for me, actually, for myself. Yeah, I'd build a place up in Azumino in Japan because you can dig down and hit a well there, and I would build, a fortress in the woods. That would be completely sustainable. But that's just me. If I had millions, I'd spend most of it getting revenge. Oh man, yeah, there is that factor as well. I like the guy in the States who won the lottery, and they asked him what is he going to do with the millions of dollars. He was like $53 million the guy won. He said, I'm going to spend it on whores and cocaine. He said that. When the newspaper reporters were asking, he said whores and cocaine. I haven't followed up to see if if he stayed true to that program, but again, one man's ceiling is another man's floor. That was his choice, not a compound or charity. But I guess the horse part was kind of a charity. But I digress. Um, that guy is my hero. I remember that guy. Yeah, you guys remember him? I almost spit out my drink when I was watching YouTube and saw him say that because it was real, and I believed him 100%. I had no doubt that he was sincere in his intentions. Nah, he was just joking, but it was gold. Well, I'm sure. I'm sure he delved a little bit. But again, like I said, until you're in that position, you really don't know what you're going to do. It really comes down to a matter of perspective. And he probably caught the clap and got arrested. Caught the clap and OD'd at the same time. they wanted to resuscitate him, but nobody would touch him without gloves. He came on with his girlfriend after the fall. Oh yeah, I'm sure his girlfriend was like, "What's that?" and every other song or rotation in his car for some reason became Beyonce's "Put a Ring on It." Like, why is Beyonce's "Put a Ring on It" like every other song in my car now? Will Red saying, speaking of guys I miss, remember Mr. Yuck Sticker? Why isn't he an emoji yet? Oh yeah. Any single girls on here? No. This is usually a bit of a sausage fest, so no. I'm gonna check that link out. Yeah, and again, perspective kind of segues into the final part of tonight's discussion. I'm not going to get into the weird scenes behind the canyon too much tonight because, again, I think I made a pretty good point last live stream. But I do want to point out perspective. This is actually a good lead in because a matter of perspective, I was thinking about today. A matter of perspective. Um, you know, honestly, we think that when we look at what's going on musically out there in the 2025 landscape, is and the things that are around it, all the scandals, all the the jail time given to rappers and singers and musicians and artists, all the things that occur out there, we think that things have gotten worse over the years in the industry. But I think we need to take under consideration a matter of perspective when it comes to that thought. I said in my last live stream that the stuff that occurred in the 60s was the blueprint for the stuff that is occurring today. And I thought about that because I always re-listen to the live stream sometimes the next day just to remind myself what I said, or maybe there's something in there that might be interesting to go to next time. And I thought about that. And I said, that's not really necessarily true, Mike. So I'd like to correct that statement actually, because things haven't gotten worse since the 1960s. I think really what it is, and the truth of it is that because of our social media age and the YouTube age, it's more exposed. It's more exposed. I was watching a YouTube, and what led to that thought, I was usually watching or reading something. In this case, it was Recollection Road on YouTube. Recollection Road is a very American centric based YouTube channel that talks about things that occurred in different periods of time in the United States when you were growing up. In my case, what was it like growing up in the 70s? And they'll show you, well, we had this and we had that and we had that and the other. But one of the things we certainly did not have was the internet. We didn't have smartphones, we didn't have computers, we didn't have any of that. So stuff could really stay on the hush hush down low A lot easier. Fast forward now to where we're at. It's getting more out there, but just because it's being exposed to the light doesn't mean that that's not on purpose. And that's kind of a left field thought, but again, a matter of perspective, thinking about how, not just how you and I would think, I said earlier, but how others among us may think. And, and I really want to find that. Let me find that. Let me do it. Damn it, I'll do it live. Sorry, guys. Let me type this. Coming. I'm looking for the Frank Zappa quote because I've been quoting it kind of recently, but I've been kind of misquoting it. And I'm looking for the quote here. Let's see if this works. Maybe that'll work. Because it's a great Zappa quote. He's basically saying that someday the facade is going to come down and you're going to see the brick wall behind it. And I think that if you, again, put yourself in the viewpoint of, the man, uh, that may have been one of the things to spread this information out. We certainly saw in the Sean Combs case that there was trickles of information, and once that trickle got out onto the internet, it spread across the world. And you have to. Everybody talks about the situation and the scene that was occurring in some of those videos, but they never ask the question, where did that come from? Who leaked that? So this new system may also be geared, in other words, in order to force conformity to people or to get rid of people. Just a thought. Let me catch up here in the chat. Back when underground actually meant something. That's correct. You know, I'm the last generation that was born that grew up in a teenage childhood that didn't have anything to do with computers or the internet at all. Computers really kind of a little bit maybe back in the late 80s, but that was by the time I was in my 20, late teens, early 20s. So, you know, I know what it feels like, that freedom that existed during that time. And I know also a lot of the things that were going, because I grew up in Los Angeles, I knew a lot of the things that was going on that wasn't getting out there. You would hear things. Daryl, this age is crazy and more degenerate. I have lost faith in our chances as a society. Well, every society has a cycle to it. Rome had a cycle to it. But again, like I said, I think that my basic premise here tonight is that things were always degenerate. I think that we're more exposed to them now because of the media formats that we have available. But I'm older now and sound like my parents. See, that's the other thing, Daryl. That's a great point. Because I don't want to be, I started out talking about the music today and the music scene. Let's leave the scene and get back to the music part of it. And of course, a lot of musicians don't want to. Prince was so careful. He would never want to, he didn't want to be the guy to say modern music sucks. He thought it, he did, but he didn't want to be the one to say it. And um, you got different folks on YouTube who are starting to say it in different formats. And I think that again doesn't seem to bother the powers that be. It's not like they're changing course. It's not like, you know, some of the movies and other media that we see are changing course from the message, if you're familiar with that term. Um, I just think that they don't care on either side. They'll expose what they're doing, all the mess that they're involved in, and they'll continue producing crap. Yeah, Clive Davis is a free man. Yeah. And again, guys like that, it's because they're connected. And that's just the truth of it. Change the country. Well, you'd have to change a lot of countries. There are a lot of places in the world. Change starts from you as an individual and how you perceive things. My favorite line in the movie is from the original, or the 1989 version of Batman, where Jack Nicholson, who we were talking about the other night, as the Joker says, "The eye of the mind makes a movie." The eye of the mind makes a movie. That's a really deep thought. That's a thinker. I'm not even going to spell that one out for you. The eye of the mind makes a movie. Think about that. And there's where change happens. That's where change can occur. Music that sucks, it's everything. My beloved pro sport have all gone woke and really weird. Yeah, like I said, the message. The message. Again, it infiltrated all forms of entertainment. Sports, movies, music. Again, we kind of touched upon this, and I don't want to get too much into this, guys, because it's not that kind of channel, and I don't want to have too many of these discussions, but we talked about the Royal Society, and we talked about other societies that were formed in the 16th, 15th, 16th century in order to influence sports, media, even to create English language, or to refine the English language, so that it could be used in order to create literature, that could be used in order to support a message. So that thought, that viewpoint, I can take back to the 15th century. So again, nothing is new under the sun, if you know your history. And you'll see that it's always been that kind of viewpoint. Music is fun if you remove the business from it. Hello, I'm late to the party. Anthony, you're never late. You're always welcome. That's all I'm going to say. The third eye concept. Well, that's another thing, but it really comes down to perspective, my friends, and how you look at things, and who you are, and how you see it. And one thing that I try to do when I'm reading books like Weird Scenes from the King is I actually try to bring out and try to see the other side of it as well. It's never good. It's never pleasant or healthy, but it is an exercise, a mental exercise. Let me see. Yeah, I can't find that Frank Zappa that quote. Maybe this is it. Let me check. This may be it. No, this isn't it. I'm sorry. This is a whole manifesto that he wrote. I wish I could. I'm going to look that up, and I'm going to share that with you guys next time, because I really want to show you that through what Zappa was saying is what I think is what we're seeing today with the internet. I think that a lot of this in AI, certainly with AI, I think this is that pulling down the facade and starting to show us the brick wall in a lot of ways. So, again, you were talking about change there earlier there, Andrew. And the theme of this was flying with gear, and how Emily Wolfe got her guitar broken, how I've had stuff damaged, other musicians. And I asked you as an audience to think about, taking it, changing your mindset on that, and seeing it as being a serious issue and addressing it wherever, if it comes up in your personal lives. And I think, again, change comes of where we take a message, we adopt it into our individual lives, and we carry it out from there. Having a matter of perspective and being able to look at different sides of things really is just one of those things that helps you navigate your way through the music business. It's been one of the things that's kept me out of a lot of situations, not to be honest. Side note, I watched a real cool interview this week given by Grillo with Carlos Ladar. Pretty cool if you're into that kind of thing. Ben put a link up so that I can be. I want to know what it is that you guys are listening to because I'm hungry for something good, and I know that all you guys are all good, and what you listen to is good. So hook me up. Glad I'm not a touring drummer. Dig that, man. Whoa. So I'm trying to tie a couple of things there, matter of perspective, and in there was the overriding kind of thought. I don't know how successful I was with that tonight, but that was kind of my thought process tonight. And I really do think airlines must do better. I think that if it's just, I don't know. It's getting bad. It's one of the reasons why I don't enjoy flying and why I don't fly very much. To be honest with you, hell, I don't even drive anymore. I really haven't driven. I haven't driven a car in about 7 years now. I'll be frank with you. I haven't driven about 6, 7 years. I haven't driven a car, and I don't miss it at all. Really don't. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up here because I can't be in this room anymore. Between this light and this hot ass monitor behind me, I think I'm gonna call it a wrap. I think we covered a good topic tonight. Been listening to a lot of the Black Angels. Yeah, make a note of all this. Scott's got it here. Interesting. Okay, now I got a perspective on this. Yeah, I'm going to check that out, Scott. Thank you. So, guys, enjoy your week. Be careful. Drink lots of liquids if you're somewhere hot. Drink lots of hot chocolate if you're somewhere cold. I'm looking at you, Maddie. And really just be safe. Like I said, I got that Pocket Master on, yeah, it's funny. I ordered one and I ended up getting a Pocket Master anyway. It's so funny to me. Just like everybody else, that is probably the biggest selling pedal of 2025. I have to be honest with you. And I'd be interested to get it. I'm not going to do a review of it because everybody and their mom has done a review of it. But if it works good with my setup here, then that's okay. And by the way, it was $35 cheaper. I got it for $50. For that, for that kind of money, it's worth giving it a shot. So anyway, I'm looking forward to that. I am going to be doing my guitar safari. I haven't started yet, but a little bit tonight I did. But anyway, guys, it's going to be the rest of the week, and then the weekend will come, and I will see you, God willing, again this Sunday. And thank you, guys. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Maddie. Thank you for moderating, gentlemen. Thank you to everybody else for always showing up and supporting. Thanks to the new people who show up. Thanks to Red. Good to see you, Red. Good to see you. Good to see you, Mr. Thornhill. Good to see all of you guys. You all support me and are always here, and it really means a lot to me. And thank you so much, gentlemen. I really had, just before I finish, I really had just a rough week where I was really feeling down. When I was Sunday night, I guess you guys could say I was just feeling down, down, down. But last few days, I've picked myself back up again, took some time off, and came up with some alternatives. We'll see if they work to the situation I'm going through. But it is a pleasure and a great deal of a joy to me to be able to sit here and just talk about this kind of stuff, take my mind off of serious things, and just focus on just having fun with you guys, hanging out down the street. All right, guys, take care, and I will see you on Sunday. Ciao.